Some time ago, I found out that my wife and her family have been planning to take half my veterinary clinic, divorce me, and leave me buried in debt while she moves on with someone else. It sounds dramatic when I say it out loud, but I lived it. And if you had told me even a week ago that she was capable of this, I would have laughed in your face. I thought I was one of the lucky ones. I married my best friend, I built a business doing what I love, and I genuinely believed we were a team. I was wrong. So very wrong. But before I explain what happened, let me give you some background. My name is Daniel, I am 38, and I own a small veterinary practice in northern Colorado. Not a big city, but not a village either. I started it 10 years ago with nothing but a used truck, an old set of surgical tools I bought secondhand from a retired vet, and a lot of sleepless nights. It grew slowly, dog by dog, cat by cat, then horses, goats. Eventually I hired 2 techs, a part-time receptionist, and invested in a proper clinic space near the highway. It is not flashy, but it is mine. My wife, Emily, is 35. We met when she was finishing her last year of med school. She wanted to be a pediatrician. She was bright, beautiful, and so confident it scared me. I met her when I brought in a rescue German Shepherd puppy that had gotten hit by a car. She was volunteering part-time at a shelter I helped support, just to stay sane between rotations. We clicked immediately. She was sharp, sarcastic, and did not care about appearances. At least, not back then. We moved in together 6 months later, married a year after that. While I was building the clinic, I worked 6, sometimes 7 days a week. I gave up weekends. I took overnight calls from frantic pet owners. I pulled double shifts to save money for her tuition gap because her scholarships did not quite cover everything. I never resented it. I was proud to support her. I believed in her. Her family never really liked me. They never said anything outright, but I felt it. The tight smiles. The way her dad asked what real medical school I went to. Her mom once called my business cute. Emily always defended me, said they were just old-fashioned, that it was not about me. I believed her. Again, I was wrong. The past few months, something had shifted. Emily started working longer hours, but would come home strangely energized, not drained like before. She started dressing differently too. Not flashy, just more effort than she used to make for someone who claimed to be exhausted. She started locking her phone, which she had never done before. At first, I figured it was work-related. Doctors deal with sensitive info, I get it. But then I noticed the texts. The way she would smile at the screen and turn it away when I walked by. How she would leave the room to take calls she claimed were from colleagues, yet always seemed to whisper. I am not proud of what I did next. But one night, after she fell asleep on the couch, I picked up her phone. Just held it. I did not unlock it. Just held it. It was warm, like it had been part of her more than I had lately. And that is when I knew something was very, very wrong. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was being paranoid, that working this much had messed with my head. But then came Sunday dinner. Every spring, we host Emily's family for a barbecue in our backyard. It is a tradition. Her dad brings overpriced wine, her mom critiques our landscaping, and her brother Dylan shows up with a new girlfriend and a passive-aggressive comment about how I still drive a pickup. This year, Emily insisted everything had to be perfect. She cleaned the house twice. She micromanaged the food. She even reorganized the spice rack like her mother was going to inspect it. She was buzzing like she was prepping for an interview, not a family meal. I smoked a pork shoulder overnight, set up the patio furniture, even repainted the back fence where our dog had scratched it up last winter. I was proud of our home, of what we built. Around 3 p.m., guests started arriving. I shook hands, smiled, played the part of good husband and host. But something was off. I could feel it in the way Emily barely looked at me. The way her brother kept smirking across the table like he knew something I did not. Her mom asked about the clinic in that tone that sounds polite but is actually hunting for failure. Her dad gave a toast about new chapters that made Emily choke on her wine. Then we ran out of chairs. I went into the garage to grab 2 more, and as I came around the corner of the house I heard them. Emily and Dylan, sharing a cigarette. She told me she quit 2 years ago. I was about to call out, but then Dylan said, "You are sure this guy will not make a mess when you pull the plug?" Emily laughed, then said, "He will not see it coming. He is still running around trying to impress mom with smoked meat and flowers. I have got the paperwork ready, just waiting to lock down the fellowship offer. My lawyer says I can get half the clinic's valuation. Easy." I froze. My heart did not race. My hands did not shake. I just stopped, like a switch flipped. Dylan said something about a guy named Brendan, that he was a real doctor, that he made her happy. And she said, "Brendan treats me like an equal, not a project." I picked up the chairs, took a breath, and walked back around the corner. Smiling. Calm. Dying. I looked her in the eye and asked if she needed anything else before we sat down. She said no and kissed my cheek. I almost vomited. I carved the meat, poured wine, laughed at Dylan's story about golfing in the Hamptons like I was not seconds away from collapsing. Every smile I gave that night was a mask. every movement carefully measured. Because I knew from that moment forward I was at war. The next morning I woke up before her. She was still asleep, face calm, arms wrapped around the same pillow she always used when she had a headache. I stared at her for a long time. Not because I missed her, because I needed to memorize exactly who I was dealing with now. She was no longer my partner, no longer my wife. She was an adversary, and the worst kind. One who knew me better than anyone, one I had spent years protecting and providing for. The second she left for work, I went straight to the safe in my office, pulled out every financial document I had, business registration, property deeds, tax filings, bank records. I started scanning them, organizing them. I built a timeline, not for a lawyer, for me, so I could understand exactly what she thought she could take from me. I own the clinic, not just in name. Every dollar I used to build it came from accounts opened years before we were even engaged. I never added her as a partner, never made her an employee. But we shared a home. And in Colorado, that meant things got muddy, especially with community property rules. She knew that. She had done her research. That is what haunted me most. She was studying me like a patient, diagnosing my blind spots. I called my friend Nate, a CPA I had not spoken to in a while, asked him to meet in person. No details over the phone. He drove down that afternoon. I told him everything. He listened, didn't judge, just nodded slowly and said, "Okay, we do this quietly. First thing is to freeze your exposure. That clinic needs a wall between her and every penny." He helped me set up an LLC that held the operating assets of the clinic: equipment, brand, intellectual property. The building itself was already in my name, so we created a second entity for real estate ownership and signed a long-term lease agreement between them. It sounds complicated, but it's simple once you understand the goal. Isolate the value, make it harder to attack. I changed payroll structure. I restructured vendor agreements. Nothing illegal, nothing shady, just smart. I played dumb at home, let her think I was busy with tax stuff and spring planning. She barely noticed. She was always texting someone these days, always smiling at her phone. She had started humming while she cooked again. I think she was happy. Not with me, with the idea of what was coming, that she would get out clean, victorious, with money in her account, and Brendan waiting with open arms. She did not know I had already scheduled a consultation with a divorce attorney. Her name was Vanessa. Sharp, cold, my kind of person. She asked one question before taking the case. "Do you want to destroy her or protect yourself?" I said, "Both." She smiled and said, "Then we are going to need proof." I dug in, started going through our cloud backups. Emily had been careless. She never deleted anything completely. I found emails, calendar invites, hotel reservations under her name that lined up with medical conferences she claimed were out of state. Except the hotels were in our own city. And Brendan? He was a surgical resident in the same hospital where she worked. I found photos, screenshots. And then I found the thing that broke me. A voice memo. Sent to Dylan. She said, "I feel guilty sometimes, like he's still trying so hard to make me happy. But I do not want his life. I do not want dogs and goats and hay in my hair. I want someone who smells like cologne and makes real money. Brendan makes 6 figures and still listens when I talk. That is not something Dan ever learned to do." She paused, then said, "The worst part is he will probably cry when I hit him with the papers, like a kicked dog, and I will still feel like the bad guy." I did not cry. I did not break. I pressed play again and again, until her voice stopped feeling real, until it just sounded like data, like evidence. I backed everything up to an encrypted drive, made copies, uploaded a spare to a private secure cloud under a different name. Nate helped me draft a financial snapshot of the clinic, a reduced one. Based on current liquidity, not projected value, Vanessa said it would make the asset seem smaller and less worth fighting over. She said people who cheat often overestimate their leverage. They think emotional leverage equals legal control. It does not. We built a plan, a complete strategy. When I was ready, I started recording. Small things at first. Casual conversations. Her laughing at Brendan's texts. Her telling her friend she, quote, "could not wait to be free." I left my phone on record in the kitchen, in the bedroom, caught snippets of things she never would have said out loud if she knew I was listening. My favorite one was when she called her mom and said, "He still brings me coffee every morning like a golden retriever. God, I am going to feel awful for one day and then never again." I saved that one, titled it Golden Retriever. Every time I heard it, I remembered why I was staying quiet, why I was smiling at dinner and mowing the lawn and folding her laundry while she plotted my erasure. Because I was not going to confront her, I was going to erase her first. I spent the next 2 weeks pretending to be the husband she remembered while quietly removing every thread of her from my future. I changed the clinic's email domain, registered a new business name, and redirected the public-facing brand to it. The old one still existed legally but was no longer visible. I updated our equipment leases. I rewrote the contracts with our suppliers. My staff did not question any of it. I told them it was just early spring cleaning and efficiency upgrades. They smiled and moved on. I opened a new personal bank account under a different credit union. I diverted all future business income to that account. My old one? I left a steady balance, just enough to avoid raising red flags. I stopped using the joint card, canceled the authorized user permissions. She did not notice. Too busy with late nights and shifts that smelled like hotel soap. Every time she walked in the door and gave me that same tired kiss on the cheek, I felt nothing. Not anger, not betrayal, just clarity. Like I was watching a stranger act out the part of my wife. And she played it well. Until the night she slipped. It was a Thursday. I made steaks, cracked open a bottle of red she liked. I told her I had good news, that the clinic had landed a large animal supply contract. She acted excited, raised her glass, said more money for the split. She froze, eyes wide, then forced a laugh and said, "You know, for the future, for us." I smiled, said nothing. She drank too fast that night, left her phone on the counter. I picked it up and saw the last message. "He has no idea. 2 more weeks. Be ready." It was from Brendan. I locked the screen, set the phone down, cleaned the dishes. That weekend, I invited her family over, said it was a surprise early birthday dinner. Casual, just us and her parents and Dylan. I made brisket. She wore that red dress I bought her 3 birthdays ago, the one she said made her feel expensive. Dylan arrived first, brought a bottle of bourbon, tried to shake my hand like we were friends. Her mom walked in like she owned the place. Her dad stayed glued to his phone like he was allergic to eye contact. We ate outside. Under the patio lights I had hung myself. String by string, they complimented the setup. I smiled. After dessert, I stood up and said I had a video to share. Said it was a gift. For Emily. She laughed. Nervous. I looked her in the eyes and said, "You know, the first mistake you made wasn't Brendan. Or Dylan. It was that cigarette break. That little moment outside the house during our last barbecue." I turned to Dylan. "You remember, right, when you laughed and asked if I'd make a mess when she pulled the plug?" Then back to her. "You said I wouldn't see it coming. That I was too busy impressing your mom with meat and flowers." Her face drained of color. "You should have been quieter." I smiled. Funny, isn't it? That a moment that small, that stupid, cost you everything. Then I connected my phone to the speaker and played everything else. The messages, the voice notes. Brendan's drunk voicemail, her calls with her mother, her joke about the golden retriever, every piece of proof she never thought I would find. No commentary, no screaming, just truth, one by one. When it ended, I looked around the table. Her mom's fork was still in her hand, frozen mid-air. Her dad stood up and walked to the edge of the yard like he could just disappear into the dark. Dylan said nothing, just stared at the speaker like it was loaded. Emily was crying, not sobbing, not apologizing, just crying like a child who had finally been caught. She said my name, soft, small. I said, "Do not say you are sorry. You are only sorry because it stopped being easy." I turned to her family and said, "You always thought I was beneath her. Now she is beneath herself." I walked back inside, closed the door, sat on the couch, and listened to them scatter. I did not cry. I did not drink. I did not feel triumphant. Just empty. Like I had finished building something I never wanted to build. A monument to betrayal. And the foundation was her voice. I filed for divorce the next morning. Vanessa submitted the petition at 8 o'clock sharp, along with documentation, evidence logs, and the preliminary financial breakdown Nate helped prepare. Emily was served 2 days later at the hospital in front of her coworkers. That was not spite. That was strategy. She had built a second life there, so I made sure that was where the cracks showed first. She called me 17 times that day, left voicemails, texted walls of apologies, denials, pleas, said it was a mistake, that Brendan meant nothing, that she got caught up in stress and pressure, said it was my fault for being too calm, too distant, too steady, said she missed me, said she missed the coffee, the porch, the smell of pine after I came in from the yard. I did not answer. I blocked her number, told Vanessa to handle all communication. Dylan emailed me, said, "You made your point. Maybe don't destroy her entirely." I never replied. Her parents sent a typed letter. Not handwritten, not signed, just generic disappointment. It went straight into a drawer. Brendan quit his residency 2 weeks later, transferred to another state. I never saw his face, never heard his voice in person. I did not need to. He was a symptom, not the disease. The clinic stayed mine, clean, untouched. The new structure held up under legal review. Vanessa was thorough. We finalized the divorce in under 90 days. No spousal support, no clinic shares, no goodwill compensation. She got her car, her clothes, her laptop. I kept the house, the land, the clinic, my dog, my peace. The silence afterward was the strangest part. No more tension in the air. No more pretending. Just quiet. It took me a while to stop listening for her keys in the door, to stop pouring 2 mugs of coffee, to stop checking the porch light before locking up. But slowly, it faded. I started fixing up the workshop I had been putting off for years. I painted the fence again, not because I was hiding the scratches, just because I wanted to. I planted tomatoes. The clinic grew. Word got out, somehow, about what happened. I never confirmed or denied anything, but the clients who stayed, they looked at me different, with more respect. Like they knew I had walked through something and come out the other side, still steady. Still standing. One afternoon, I was setting up for a client consult when I saw an envelope on the front desk. No name, no return address. Inside was a photo. Emily and I. From years ago. Happy. Sunlight in her hair, laughing. On the back she had written, "I do not expect forgiveness, but I hope you remember I was real once." I burned it. Not out of anger, but because some things deserve to end without memorials. People asked if I would ever date again. I told them maybe. One day. But I am not in a hurry. I spent too many years building a future someone else was planning to steal. I want to build something now that no one else can touch. Something quiet. Something honest. Something mine. And when I pour coffee in the morning, I only pour 1 cup. Because now I know the person who stays deserves the whole thing. Not the leftovers. Not the role. Not the performance. The truth. And I am finally okay with being alone if it means I never have to pretend again.